Welcome back to another episode of the Boys on the Bench podcast. We are your host. I am DJ Riley, and alongside me is my brother Dalton Riley and lifelong friend Nathan Eastwood. We finally made it to episode 10. We have finally hit double digits. Boys, I am excited to finally say that we have done everything, all of our long nights, staying up, editing, dealing with all of the bull crap with matching audio, video, trying to get everything up there. It has been an absolute nightmare, but it also has been an absolute pleasure learning all of this, building a community, building a crowd for y'all to follow along with us and kind of starting this process with us. By no means are we saying that we are perfect, but it does have to start from somewhere, and we thank y'all for being day one listeners and following along. So in this episode, what we are going to do is we are continuing our boom and bust talk. In last episode, we did a quarterback edition, and now in this episode, we are doing the running backs. So again, we did an ADP. We listed out running backs who were potential booms for us. Nathan, and Dalton each did that for booms and busts, and through that, we had an average draft position. So now that we have that draft position here, we will break that down. So, with that said, Nathan, go ahead and kick us off.
Yes, sir. I always get the pleasure of announcing this man's name because I am a fan of the one and only Texas Longhorns. And at number 5, we have the one and only Bijan Robinson, folks. Guys, we have talked about this man in several other podcasts, and you got to get him. You have to, because he wasn't drafted in the top 10 for no reason, folks. He's a great running back. He is a generational talent. And like I said in past episodes, he's not only a fantastic running back and has crazy moves and can make you miss, but in the words of Steve Sarkisian himself, he also had the best hands on the football team as a running back. So the Falcons are going to use him. They brought him in to kind of help Desmond Ridder out, kind of have a balanced offense with passing and rushing. But I fully expect this man to probably win Rookie of the Year and possibly even get 1,000 yards rushing and double-digit touchdowns. This man's going to be a great asset for the Falcons. He's going to be a great fantasy football player. He needs to be – he's a running back one on your team. So, I mean, if you're sitting there, get him. He's going to be great. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think Bijan's about as electric as it comes as a new prospect coming into the NFL. I mean, if we look at some of the things he did at Texas, he was basically – everything he did was efficient. He averaged 6.3 yards per carry, but here's the catch. He had 4.39 coming after the contact. Guys, there's not even running backs that can run a 4.39 before contact.
Dog.
Like that's what I'm saying. This dude is ridiculous. And so with his size and his efficiency with his hands as well, guys, I think as a young quarterback in Desmond Ridder, I think that this is a fantastic addition. And I think that there could be, no ceiling for Bijan in his first year. I think he could break rookie records and he could be, easily the most valuable player, rookie wise for the NFL this year. So rookie offensive player. So I can definitely see that being easily attainable for him.
Absolutely. And to your point with Desmond Ridder being QB1 for them coming into this season, I think that just allowing Desmond Ridder to also get used to the NFL, I think that he's going to have a solid run game around him. And I think that was exactly Atlanta's thoughts with getting Bijan Robinson with a top 10 pick at number 8 was, okay, I think that we have to build up our run game first in order to build up our passing game through Desmond Ridder. I don't think that they think Desmond Ridder is going to come in and immediately be a star. He's potentially not even going to be a top 20 quarterback. So again, like I'm saying, get a stud running back. Tyler Algier was good, not great. Bijan Robinson is great, and he has a very high ceiling. So having him here at number 5 is really good, but he does have the potential to finish top 3. It's just the Atlanta offense, I think, is what worries me from keeping him within that top 3 range. So, but very excited about the young rookie season that he's going to have.
Absolutely. So, guys, let's talk about another electric running back for us. So, at number 4, our current ADP has someone by the name of Jonathan Taylor. Guys, Jonathan Taylor, we currently have him ranked as our current ADP at 4. So, obviously, we're not too concerned about what happened last year with his injuries, right? So, we know with his ankle injuries, guys, that was his first, injury that he's had since high school. So he never battled with any type of lingering injuries. He's never had anything that really set him back in his career, even at the collegiate level. So with Wisconsin, was it? So he never had anything that was really pushing him back. But now that he's, going through this is kind of the first thing that he's struggling with. And let's not forget that he's only 24 years old. So I with our ADP, obviously none of us are really concerned about it. We think he can come back and he's going to go right back to his normal self. Also, being as an RB1, we've seen him perform, at the elite talent he has been with mediocre quarterback play. Well, now with Anthony Richardson and the quarterback whisperer with head coach Steichen, I think that things are only on the up and up. Guys, we talked about this before Richardson even went there. We had a good idea that he was going to go to the Colts, but now that he did, that was something that we were excited about, having a two-headed monster in the backfield and confusing defenses on who was going to actually have the ball. So I think that Jonathan Taylor, this is a perfect world scenario for him, and especially in the fantasy world for us. So just so y'all know, in 2021, Taylor led the NFL in evaded tackles per touch rate and was third in yards created per touch. So his elusiveness was there in 2021. I don't think things just disappear in 1 year, especially at that age, especially at being as dominant as he was in 2021. In fact, last year in week 1, and I think it was in weeks 10 through 12, he was the healthiest he had been, and we saw how efficient he was and that it didn't just disappear. In those 4 weeks, he totaled 27.5 PPR, 24.3, 16.4, and 18.8. So we've seen him get his touches, his carries. I don't think anything went anywhere. I think he just had those lingering injuries, and I don't think he really, took care of those injuries the way he should have and rushed the process. But now that we're coming back from this year, I think he'll be just fine. And one last thing, let's not forget that this is his final rookie year on his contract. So this is a contract year for him. So usually when we see that in rookies, this is usually one of their best years to prove a point on why they deserve big payout.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm surprised that he didn't get a contract after the 2021 season, but hey, you know what? Whatever. More power to him. All more the reason why he's going to have a chip on his shoulder this year. But, last year, had a rookie year. It is what it is. He battled injuries. The offensive line battled injuries. They just weren't the Colts. We all agree on that. And moving forward now, we're going to get healthy. We're going to get our offensive line healthy. We're going to get back to what we were in 2021. We have a quarterback who we think we can win with now, and they have a decent wide receiver room. They got the coaches. They got the defense. So really look for Jonathan Taylor to bounce back, because now you don't have the concerning quarterback issues of, who's going to be our quarterback next year? Or are we going to go pick someone up? Or are we going to draft someone? No, they got their guy. They're sold on him. They're sold on Jonathan Taylor. Like Dalton said, you got a chip on his shoulder, got to prove, got to get his money. So look for him to really bounce back this year and be good and be like it was in 2021 with that offensive line finally getting healthy.
Yep.
100%. Coming into the season, I'm not really worried about Jonathan Taylor. I think if anyone kind of showed a lot of progress just through the draft, that was Jonathan Taylor himself. Just to your point, Nathan, getting that quarterback that the Colts have finally needed, being able to create that chemistry. And then it's also kind of like a Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts type, where he is a two-headed monster. So then that even opens up that run game even more and adds that extra layer to their run game that only benefits the running back position. Jonathan Taylor doesn't have a whole lot of competition behind him, other than, I think, Deion Jackson and Zach Moss. So that's kind of it. So he's not really having to compete a whole lot. I think that every time the ball is ran, most of that is going to be by Jonathan Taylor. So anyways, that takes us into our third boom. Pick number 3 and that is Austin Eckler. So he is a guy, again, he has been a staple for the Chargers, and I'm not even sure. Coming into this season, they allowed him to talk to other teams about potential trades and everything else. And I mean, I know that people are skeptical on investing in a running back, but for me, Austin Eckler is more than that. He is a wide receiver, and he is just a powerhouse. He's a PPR threat. He's someone that's going to go out there, get you 7-8 targets, and then also anytime you hand him the rock, he is bound to go. He's just an explosive person all in all. So I'm excited to see him this year. I think that he continues his dominance. I saw that instead of offering him a new contract, the Chargers gave him an incentive-based bonuses where he can earn up to $2 million based on some stats that he could have had, and they were all based on last year's stats. So I think if he gets more than 16,000 or 1,600 total yards, he'll get a little bit of a bump. I don't know how many touchdowns he had last year, but if he matches his touchdowns last year, he'll also get a little bit of a bump on his contract. So although he gets a little bit of an incentive bump for this year, he's also in a contract year. He's trying to get that next contract, whether or not that comes from the Chargers or not. He's trying to prove himself. He's trying to prove his worth that, yes, he's getting up there in age, but he can still compete at a high level.
Yeah, DJ, actually, speaking of those touchdowns you were just referring to, he actually scored 18 touchdowns last year. He's a red zone target. He had 5 receiving and 13 rushing. Not only that, but between those 2 years, between last year, 2021 and 2022, there's no one that's actually had scored more touchdowns at the running back position than himself. He leads the running backs in touchdowns scored in the past 2 years. So he's been an absolute sleeper. We've talked about that before. Austin Eckler is probably the most slept upon running back in the NFL. The man is so efficient day after day. He actually gives, at his size, people like Jahmyr Gibbs hope. Like, hey, it can be done at that size. At 5'10", sub 200, 200 pounds, sub 200, it can be done.
I mean, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is out there benching and squatting as much, but I do agree though. I do agree.
Right. But strength is something that can be gained. But, it's just saying that at that size, it can be done, and so I'm excited for Austin Eckler. I think, having him, at 3 for us, I think that's awesome. I think, it's like looking at his stats. It's like, oh my gosh, dude, I didn't even realize that. Holy cow, this dude's a fantasy stud. So I think I'm glad the Chargers kept him. I think he's a central piece for them. And I think that he'll continue to be one as long as he's there. So.
Yeah, I agree. And we've mentioned this about Austin Eckler in the past. Put some respect on the man. I mean, I feel like he's one of the most disrespected running backs in all of the NFL based on what he can produce and what he can do with the football in his hands. But he's a great addition. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, he deserves a lot of money. I just don't think the Chargers are willing to give it to him because, honestly, if they were, don't you think they would have already given it to him? So I think his payday is going to come elsewhere. Look for him to have a fantastic year, both just for his career and fantasy wise, because he's looking for his payday, and he's got to prove to the other teams, like, yeah, I did it last year and the years before, but I can still do it and give me my money. So look for him to really be good, just an all around football player and fantasy player this year, and running back 1, and for some reason, if you got him as a running back 2, you're probably going to be pretty stacked at the running back. So, but yeah, no, I like it. Definitely running back 1, and yeah, he's a steal and disrespected, and I hope that the NFL and other people put respect on him.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, and even like who's behind him in years to come, that Chargers team could look completely different, even if that's not this upcoming season, but the following season. The running backs behind him, Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller, I mean, those are just 2 different style running backs behind him. So I don't know. I mean, he is 28 this season going into the next season, so he will be 29 come his next contract. So do you invest in a nearly 30-year-old running back? But he's proven year in and year out, he's throwing up top 5 numbers.
Yeah,
consistently.
I think that's
consistent.
the issue. I think a lot of people are seeing the age, and like you said, running backs aren't really, they don't have really a longevity of a career in the NFL. They give you a great solid 4 years, and it's pretty much a downfall after that. So, but moving forward at number 2, Saquon Barkley. I like this. I like this a lot because this is also a man who turned down a big contract. He turned down a big contract. He was like, no, I'm worth more than that, and I'm going to prove it to you. So this man has a massive chip on his shoulder, looking for something to prove. They went out, they drafted Jalen Hyatt, they added Darren Waller. Look for them to have more of a balanced offense this year now that they've added a little bit of the weapons in the passing game, which is, I think, is going to help Saquon Barkley also in the passing game, in the rushing game. And I just can't get over the fact that the contract that he turned down. So he obviously he thinks and knows that he deserves more money, and now he has to prove it. And what's the best way to prove it? Being in the NFCs with those defenses. If you can rush for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns and then get 600-700 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns against those defenses, look for that man to get a pretty good payday. So if anybody can do it against those defenses, it's probably Saquon Barkley, because he can catch the ball out of the backfield and be a great receiving back, but he's also a downhill runner. So look for him to have a chip on his shoulder and be ready to play some football this year and get a lot of touches and some points and some touchdowns.
For sure. Like exactly what you said, Nathan, with the NFC East being his biggest concern. Yes, that is 6 games. But again, we're talking about fantasy where, you know, we're only needing them to play into weeks 14 or 15. So they don't play weeks 16, 17, 18 for us. Those games really don't matter because the fantasy season, a lot of times it's kind of over by then. So that's where they'll miss out on 2 matchups. So we're talking about maybe 4 games of his fantasy season are going to come against those opponents. So I don't know. I am a little bit hesitant. I am worried about that. I think out of our top 5, he definitely has the toughest schedule, making it a little bit of a harder path. But with that said, Saquon Barkley came off of a pretty gruesome injury and still posted top 5 numbers last year, even with those same dominant defenses. So he's proven to have top 5 numbers. And I think, again, adding that element of him being in a contract year, still being in the same division, I mean, who's to say he can't do it again? So I do expect a top 5 fantasy season out of him. And then just like everyone else kind of mentioned in this, other than Bijan Robinson, is they're in a contract year. So I don't know. I think he'll do good for the Giants this year.
Yeah, I mean, there are some concerning components to this, especially with the strength of the schedule. I think they're currently like 29th for running backs right now. So they do play some pretty tough defenses, especially being there in the NFC East. But one thing, too, like brings me back to normalcy, you know, feeling pretty confident with Saquon, is the fact that he was second last year in touches with 352 touches total. So his opportunity is there. And so that's always a good thing for fantasy managers when they see that and the opportunity and the volume that he receives. Also, I'm excited with that defense. I think they'll see more red zone opportunities and more touchdowns too, given that they've received Darren Waller and the improved quarterback play from Daniel Jones. Like I said, I currently have Daniel Jones. I'm really high on him. I know a lot of people may not be, but I think he's really grown as a quarterback, and I think that getting some new quarterback help around him will really help him take him to the next level. I think he's got some great coaches around him too now that are going to help him grow. So I think that only helps Saquon, and so that's why I kind of like where we have him at number 2. I think that he's a strong plug and play for fantasy managers, and will be someone that will help carry your team along the way. So now, guys, we currently are moving on to our number 1 ADP. Now, if you've made it this far with us, you are obviously pretty sure who you know it is, because he sure ain't number 6 on our list. It's Christian McCaffrey, right? So, guys, he too also had some gruesome injuries. We've talked about this before too, with his thigh and calf and shoulder and his ankle injuries along the way. But last year, guys, in 2022, he didn't miss a single game. Guys, that makes me feel a little better, and that makes me feel a little more confident about putting him at our number 1 ADP. So coming in, guys, he played half the season with the Carolina Panthers and then came in and played, was traded to the 49ers and played the second half of the season there with them. Guys, he completely changed the dynamics of the air game and the ground game for the 49ers completely. I mean, they already had so many weapons there on that offense, yet just by having Christian McCaffrey on their offense completely just changed everything. He is now funneled through that entire offense. And that's crazy to say with so many targets there, with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So I think Christian McCaffrey landed in a great spot. I think that it really didn't hinder his game at all. I think, when he got sent to the 49ers, I was like, oh, great. Well, he's a great running back, but there goes a lot of opportunity. No, I think if anything, it helped him more than being with the Panthers, and especially being with some young quarterbacks. I think that it helped checking him down and being able to be a kind of a, setting up for screens and things like that. I think it's been great for him. So also he was, guys, I don't know if y'all know this, but he was actually named the offensive MVP for the 49ers this last year. And he only played the second half of the season for them.
That's impressive.
So yeah, he was named the offensive MVP for the 49ers. So, guys, that just tells me that he is part of that system, and he is going to continue to be a part of that system, and that's how valuable they see him. So, that's why I'm pretty stoked at having him where we have him. So.
Yeah, and for those of you, I know that whenever I look at it, and it was just like you, Dalton, with whenever he joined the 49ers, it was like, that is an absolute steal for the 49ers, but that may be a bust for the fantasy managers, because I was definitely concerned with what type of production that he was going to get after joining the 49ers, just because of how star-studded they are with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. It's like, oh my gosh, we know Christian McCaffrey because of his receiving. Yes, he can run it, but it's kind of similar to Austin Eckler. They are a two-headed monster, but fantasy-wise, we really love that additional impact of him being able to receive. But ever since his trade to San Francisco, he had 6+ targets in 7 out of the 10 games that he played for them this past season. So his targets are still there. All he has to do is catch them now. So I'm not concerned about it anymore, and I think that speaks to having him as our number 1 in ADP for running backs this year. So I expect him to have a similar season. Last year, he finished as the number 2 running back in all of fantasy, and that's with playing on 2 different teams. So now that he gets a full season under his belt with a single team, and that is in a Kyle Shanahan offense that is built through the zone run, I'm excited. So I think that he'll have a pretty dang good season.
Yeah, I was just about to kind of say that there, DJ. People are concerned. Like you said, people are concerned, but it is Kyle Shanahan, and he will find a way to get that man the football and for him to be a productive running back and wide receiver in that offense. So, played a full year last year. Let's just hope he can follow it up. That's really the only concern. So, if he could stay healthy, perfect. But I've had my heart broken and drafted him at 1 and then only having him for 2 weeks. A little salty.
Oh, yeah.
Little salt in the wound there. So, but he is a number 1 overall running back. I mean, that's a no brainer. That's a good plus sign that he did play a full year last year, and hopefully he can play a full year this year. I'm not going to say much about him because y'all pretty much covered it, and everybody who knows football and plays fantasy football knows everything there is to know about Christian McCaffrey. So that pretty much covers our top 5 booms and our running backs that we believe who you should get. But moving on, we have some honorable mentions that we'll touch on real quick and give you a little peace of mind on why we think they're honorable mentions and move forward from there. For me, my honorable mentions, Josh Jacobs. He led the NFL in rushing last year. He proved I think last year going into the year was a contract year for him, if I'm not mistaken. And he led the NFL in rushing. And they're kind of going to have to lean on him again this year. They went and added Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I said I don't know if I said it last episode or 2 episodes ago or whatever it was, but you basically just replaced Derek Carr with a worse Derek Carr, in my opinion. So they're really going to have to lean on Josh Jacobs this year again and look for him to kind of follow up what he did this past year. He's now proven that he can be the number 1 running back in the NFL with being the leading rusher. So I really like the guy. He's a great addition if you're a late round pick in the first round. So, yeah, good pickup there if you're sitting 7 on back.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I think Josh Jacobs is an absolute steal in this. I've seen a lot of analysts actually talking about Josh Jacobs saying, he's reached his absolute ceiling this past year, and he won't. The numbers he'll reach again will be that's absurd. Like he'll never be able to do that again. Well, I think that's just total bull crap. I think if he was leading the NFL in rushing yards and rushing it, just overall efficiency, like why can't he do it again or be similarly close? If he was leading the NFL, why would he be 20th or 25th? I think it's very possible to be in the top 10. He may not be number 1 again. Yeah, that ceiling might be a little too high to achieve again, but I think it's very in the realm of him being, top 10 or definitely in top 5 again. So
before we move on though, hold up. Did y'all see the stuff with Jimmy G potentially being released?
Are you serious?
Yeah. So there's been a news break about him potentially being released because he hasn't been able to pass his physical. So they said before he signed in March, he opted for some type of surgery, I think on his leg. I don't know what it was for, but it was a minimal surgery. But then since that, he was supposed to be good, and he hasn't been able to pass his physical being due to that surgery. So they're talking about how they have in his contract that they can release him and will be off the hook before they've even paid him a dime.
Jeez. I actually heard about this, him not passing his physical, but I had heard that they restructured his contract because of it. But wow, to be released, that makes sense. But holy cow,
that's what I'm saying. Like that could really open up Josh Jacobs' usage. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Well, there you go, guys.
He'll be in the brothels.
Yeah, you can't rework that out of the contract. All right. So someone that I have as part of my honorable mention, who I feel is also slept upon up there with Austin Eckler, is Nick Chubb. So, guys, I feel like Nick Chubb is slept upon year after year after year, and the man produces year after year after year after year. He's very consistent in what he does. So I think currently he averaged an insane 5 yards per carry last year, per carry. So, guys, there's not too many running backs out there that are doing that. Now, I know one reason that kind of hurt him a lot was with Kareem Hunt being in town. I know that took away a lot of the receiving usage and a lot of the receiving capabilities that Nick Chubb could have done. Now, Nick Chubb is just as a receiving threat, but that was always pushed towards Kareem Hunt. But now with Hunt out and now a free agent, the usage is all there for Nick Chubb. There's not really anyone there to compete with carries. And so I see Nick Chubb being an absolute workhorse this year unless the Browns add someone in free agency or add someone before the season starts or anything like that. So unless that happens, I think Nick Chubb is an absolute steal in the draft this year. So if he's up for grabs in the first round, especially if he's pushing near the end of the first or second round, guys, absolute steal. This dude can just unleash true potential in the league this year. So
I like that. Yeah, I think he's kind of one of those running backs that definitely gets slept on too. So I like Nick Chubb there. For me, my honorable mention is Aaron Jones. I know I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, but I really like Aaron Jones here. I know that they have a two-headed monster in Green Bay with Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, but with looking at Aaron Jones's numbers last year, he finished his RB9 in fantasy last year. Now, the reason that he took such a dip as a running back 9 last year, so it's still a top 10 finish, but the only reason that he took a dip at number 9 was because he only had 2 rushing touchdowns last year. He did have 5 receiving touchdowns, but he only had 2 rushing touchdowns. So with LaFleur's offense, he is out of the Kyle Shanahan system, so that system is built through the run. I don't see a season where Aaron Jones gets only 2 rushing touchdowns, so even if he throws up the same rushing yardage, receiving yardage, everything else, I have high hopes that he is going to score more than just 2 rushing touchdowns, which is ultimately going to move him up and up the ladder. So I don't think that he's necessarily a top 5 running back by any means, but he's definitely higher than RB9. So especially with the new quarterback trying to get, like we're saying with the Bijan Robinson, you've got to build up the run before you build up the pass. So with Jordan Love being it kind of his first year, essentially, yes, he's played in a couple games, started a couple games. This is essentially his first true year. So build up that run. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon are going to feed off a lot of that. Aaron Jones is really RB1 of that crew. So I expect him to have a lot better year this year. So he is my honorable mention.
Yeah, DJ, so I absolutely agree. I think Aaron Jones is going to be great for fantasy managers this year. I think that if you're definitely needing someone late in the first, early in the second too as well, along with Nick Chubb, if Aaron Jones falls in your lap, take him. So, guys, that concludes our honorable mentions for running backs. Now we're going to go ahead and get right into the bus. So, guys, for our bus, for our number 5 ADP, we currently have Raheem Mostert out of Miami. Guys, for the 2023 season, Miami currently is ranked 31st in their overall strength of schedule for running backs. Guys, that is a very tough schedule there in the AFC East. So they've got some good defenses there, in the Patriots. They've also got the Bills and the Jets. So I think those are pretty good, like-minded defensive teams. I think that's going to be really tough for running backs. And so with Raheem Mostert, I just don't see him being very productive. They just redid him a new contract, I think for 2 years. But what's concerning for me is they also did a 2-year contract for, who was it? Jeff Wilson. So they just did a 2-year contract for him as well. But here's the kicker. Mostert's 2-year contract is worth $5.6 million, and it includes a $2.2 million in guaranteed money. Wilson's deal carries a maximum value of $8.2 million. Guys, the contracts are not far off. So I see this nothing more than being a running back, 1A and a running back 1B. So that's why I think the strength of schedule, and then also with the 2 running backs, it's going to be a committee, a very strong committee between Mostert and Jeff Wilson. So with that eating into each other, I don't like that. And especially with the opportunity share, it's just not very appealing to fantasy managers. And that's why we currently have them as low as we do in our ADP.
For sure. The AFC East is just as tough as the NFC East. Every team in the East this year is very, very tough defensively. So with that, like you're saying, Dalton, Raheem Mostert is also 31 years old. So even last year, he did finish last year as the RB 25. He was boom or bust every week. You did not really know, and it was very dependent upon a matchup. He would go for 25 one week, but then the next week he has 3, and then the next week he has 4, and then the next week he has 5, and then he's back up to 16, 17. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't like him. I know a lot of people are high on him just because of how explosive that Miami team is offensively. And they're like, well, he's bound to score. He's got to score. He's got to do this. He's got to get a lot of red zone touches. I agree, but I don't think that Miami is necessarily sold on him. So we've heard the talks about Dalvin Cook potentially being on his way out of Minnesota, and Dolphins being one of the teams that are highly interested in him. So if that happens, absolutely, Raheem Mostert sweepstakes, we're all out on that. So. I
actually really like that. I think if Dalvin Cook doesn't go there, and I think if they stick with those 2 running backs with Mostert and Jeff Wilson, I think that Mike McDaniel's just going to play the hotter hand each week. So that's why I would just stay away from that, because the contracts are too similar.
Exactly. And the way you explain the contract, if I'm not mistaken, Wilson's going to make more money than Mostert. So
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, looking at number 4, that for us is James Conner, running back, Arizona. So for him here, I am not absolutely sold on him. That Cardinals organization is going through a rebuild. We just saw a couple days ago, they just released DeAndre Hopkins, which I don't know why they didn't do that post June 1st. To kind of avoid the cap, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I think that they're kind of in a tank mode right now. So they are in through a rebuild mode. he doesn't have the luxury of having Kyler Murray alongside him at quarterback, at least for the first part of the season. And I think, honestly, if the season goes as we're all expecting, which is not very good for Arizona, Kyler Murray is likely to sit out all of next season. So I'm not absolutely sold on James Conner. I don't think that he is going to have a lot of volume there. I think that they are going to struggle to maintain possessions to drive down the field, getting him a lot of red zone opportunities. Sure, he may have yards. I think he may sit somewhere around 750, 800 on the year. Don't know if he touches 1,000. So I think that offense is going to have to kind of run through him a little bit. But I don't think that the fantasy numbers are going to be there for him this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think running backs too. I think with that, what's going on with Kyler Murray and everything, and we're seeing a little bit of regression there. I think when you see a little bit of regression at the quarterback play, you see a little bit at the running back as well. But I think Kyler Murray is still going to be a very efficient quarterback, much better than most quarterbacks that are left in the NFL. But with James Conner, yeah, I think there are some question marks that I just can't get on board with him.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like DJ said, that I just feel like Arizona is just going into a tank here, in my opinion. And the fact that they got rid of D-Hop proves it even more, right? Because you just got rid of the one person that you could throw the football to. So, like DJ said, the offense is going to run through James Conner. It's going to be easy to stop. I mean, yeah, he's going to get numbers because the offense is going to run through him, but the Cardinals aren't going to be a good football team. So it's not worth it to me. But moving on to number 3. We have Miles Sanders. Kind of like Raheem Mostert. He could be really, really good for a couple weeks and then kind of tank for a few weeks. He just left the Eagles. That was a very, very good Eagles offense. So he looked good in the Eagles offense, but that was because they had weapons everywhere on the football field, and you had to worry about all those weapons. He's going into Carolina this year. What was it, a 4-year deal, $25 million or something like that. And I just seem like with the Panthers trading away McCaffrey, are they trying to recreate McCaffrey? I don't know, but you can't do that because there's not another Christian McCaffrey in the NFL. But he's coming in with Frank Wright and then Bryce Young, and the Panthers are kind of in a rebuild process too. So it's just going to be kind of hold on. Let's get wins when we can get them. Let's just show consistency. Let's just try to be a competitive type year. I don't think anybody in the Panthers organization is really looking to make the playoffs. I think they're just looking for Bryce Young to be consistent. And I don't think is it there? Maybe, but every time I see Frank Wright with John, I just picture him with a Jonathan Taylor type offense, likes to be run first, and I don't know if Miles Sanders can handle that. So,
I totally agree with you, Nathan. I just, with that, I think this the inconsistency for me. Like you said, 30 PPR points one week and then 4 the next. And that's on a good offense, with the Philadelphia Eagles. But now that he's with the Panthers, I think that they're still in a rebuilding phase. I think they're rebuilding right. I think they're doing a good job, but they're not close yet. And so I think they're still well into a rebuilding phase. And I think that the inconsistency on a good football team doesn't translate well to a rebuilding football team.
Yeah. And people tell me all the time, like, Nathan, it's Bryce Young. Look what he did at Alabama. I get that. Bryce Young is a talented quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. Bryce Young is a rookie, guys. And rookies make rookie mistakes. Rookies are going to struggle. That they're just going to do it. It's going to happen. So this year's focused on the play of Bryce Young and his consistency and how he can adapt into the NFL. I feel like that's where the Panthers and Frank Wright's most attention is going to be drawn to. So I just don't like Miles Sanders.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think that Miles Sanders is a good signing for Carolina. I like to what you're saying, Dalton. I think that Carolina is continuing to make all of the right moves, going through a rebuild and getting Miles Sanders. He is a good running back, but I think he's kind of a combination of our 4 and 5 that we had with Raheem Mostert and James Conner, where Raheem Mostert is a boom to bust every week, and I think that that's going to be what Miles Sanders is. But then also James Conner is going to be on a lackluster offense, and that's also what Miles Sanders is in. So he's got the potential to be a boom week to week, but he's also on a very bad offense. So they did make the right moves. So They invested in a young quarterback. They brought in Adam Thielen. They brought in DJ Shark. So they're trying to build it up, but I think that it's going to definitely be a learning process. And unfortunately, like I said, I don't think that they're going to be able to sustain drives. They're probably going to be out of a lot of ball games, forcing them to throw the ball. Miles Sanders is not a part of that equation. So that's why I have him low here. I think he could have potentially a good season. I think that we may see a couple finishes within the top 10 week to week, but not a lot more outside of that.
Yeah, very well said. I think that's a very good comparison between Mostert and Connor. But, we'll see. That's a rebuilding team, and, we'll see if Miles Sanders has what he needs and can produce. So, guys, for our next ADP number 2 for our bus, guys, we currently have Damian Harris. Now, guys, Damian Harris used to be a very efficient running back for the Patriots. I mean, I remember him going pretty high for running backs in the past, not top 5, but usually a pretty good RB2 for most teams. He was very red zone touchdown dependent at the time, and I think that he still is. That's why I still have him at the bust that he is right now. And also being there with the Bills, he's on a very good offense now, but he's replacing Devin Singletary. The reason that I can't jump on board with him is because of his PPR status. I think when it comes to the receiving game, I think that's still all going to be funneled through James Cook. Damian Harris never really still took most of the receiving work for the Patriots anyway. Even when he was there, that was still kind of given to Stevenson. And then Ramondre Stevenson was even then, I feel like just as good or a better between the tackles runner than when he was, which is why Ramondre Stevenson kind of just took over. But with Damian Harris, I just think that even coming into the Bills, he's going to be very touchdown dependent. Even last year in 2021, he had 15 touchdowns last year. And so that's just how good he was. But it was very well dependent on being in the red zone and getting them there. So that's why I can't jump on board fully with Damian Harris. I just, I think that, being on a good offense, I think they'll get him there, but I don't want to rely on that. I need the opportunities of, being in the backfield, even when he's not in the red zone. So
I agree with you, Dalton. I think that, like you said, he was good at New England, but I feel like his best years in fantasy came when Tom Brady was at New England with him. A lot of dump downs to him. They were able to be efficient in the red zone with Tom Brady there. Now he's on to Buffalo, and like you said, they're really high on James Cook. So I fully expect James Cook to kind of take over and be the main guy there. And I don't think his production may go down a little bit because he's on a better football team this year and very, very pass happy offense, but to the point where they're so pass happy that they like to throw the ball more downfield probably than any other team in the NFL. So maybe, yeah, he could be efficient in the red zone, but probably not anywhere else. So I agree with you.
I mean, if you look at kind of the Bills running backs in previous years with Devin Singletary and what's the other guy's name? Zach Moss. They were never really top running backs in the league ever. And I think that's just because of that team around Josh Allen. They have just a lot of studs. So they have Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, got Dawson Knox, and now all of a sudden they have Dalton Kincaid. So maybe they're going with a 2 tight end set to maybe build up that run a little bit. I don't know. It's all speculation. Dalton Kincaid also doesn't have the frame style to be a blocking tight end. That's not who he was at Utah. He is a pass catching tight end. So I only think that that's going to add more so to the passing game more than anything. So, and it was like we're saying, he is going to come in. If anything, it is going to be a running back by committee with James Cook and Damian Harris. We saw that happen with Damian Harris when, like we were saying, when he was in New England. I don't think that he sees the same type of usage where Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson are kind of getting equal splits, equal carries. So he's now joining a Buffalo Bills team where now he's essentially having to split the ball 3 ways running wise, where that's with James Cook himself and then Josh Allen. So he's going to get less touches. Yes, he's going to get a ton of red zone opportunities, but like you're saying, Dalton, he is almost touchdown dependent. So he is a boom or a bust. You have to just hope that they get himself in the red zone and then he finds himself in the end zone. So I don't love him in fantasy. I think that if you're going with the Bills running back, you have to go more so James Cook. So
right. And even being in the red zone, there's too many target shares already. And then it's a 50-50% chance who's going to get the ball either between Josh Allen or Damian Harris on the 2-yard line. So,
well, and you saw how upset Stephon Diggs is when he doesn't get the ball in the end zone this past year. So,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot to go around, and I don't think that Damian Harris is top 3 for getting the ball within the red zone. So, but anyways, that brings us to our final bust, and that is David Montgomery. We just saw him make the transition, or he was on the road from Chicago, but now he is in Detroit. So staying within the division, I do not like this. I think it was a decent signing by Detroit. I think that they are trying to fill the void of Jamal Williams, and David Montgomery is not that. So I think that that's the type of role that they're doing, but then we also saw them invest in a running back early in this draft with Jahmyr Gibbs. So then that even hurts David Montgomery a lot more. I kind of like David Montgomery in fantasy pre-draft, but now post-draft, I do not like him a ton. So yes, that Lions offense, we saw a lot of improvements. A lot of people are kind of buying the hype. We saw that the Lions got the bid to kick off the season against the Chiefs, and that kind of speaks to their recent success in last year. So I think a lot of people are buying the hype. I just don't know how much David Montgomery feeds off of that. I think that for me, I have him listed as my number 1 bust. I think he could have a decent season, but a lot of people are getting him early and often because of the Detroit Lions team that he's on. But for me, I'm not buying that from him.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you because he was really, really good at Chicago, but Chicago didn't have anything else. It was just Justin Fields, run a boot play. If you can dump it off to a running back or a receiver, fine. If you can't, run. And it worked. And they were a really good rushing team. But going to the Lions, like you said, everyone's really high on him because he's going to the Lions. Yes. But the Lions traded back, passed on Bijan to get Gibbs. You have to prove to your fan base that that was the right choice. Because if you knew you were taking a running back with your first pick, some people say, why didn't you take Bijan at 6? They instead went back and got Gibbs at, 12?
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, they got Gibbs at 12. So now you have to prove why you did that. You got to allow Gibbs to get his touches and show that, okay, that was actually a good move for us. So I fully expect Gibbs to get most of the touches and most of the opportunities just because the Lions are going to prove why they drafted him over Bijan. So I'm with you, DJ. And they got good wide receivers and Jared Goff did pretty good at throwing the football the second half of the season. So we'll see. We'll see. I think he's going to be your boomer bust per week by week. So. Yep.
And so, guys, and to add to that, I think why I have him as my number 1 bust right now is really because of how high, like DJ was saying, how high his ADP was before the draft. I mean, it's how far he fell after the draft. That's why he's a bust, is because once it kind of goes back to the draft, like, you know, and as Nathan was referring to as well, is if they were just taking the best player off the board, they would have done that. But they would have taken Bijan at 6 it was they had it, or 7, and then they traded all the way back to 12 and picked up Jahmyr Gibbs. They knew who they wanted all along. And I think now that they got Jahmyr Gibbs, you're going to have to use him. You know, you have to prove to your fan base why you picked him and you have such high hopes for him and high expectations because you took him where you did. So that's why I'm really low on David Montgomery. I just, with that, his ADP being as high as it was, I don't think it's nowhere near as what it was pre-draft as it is post-draft. So.
Yeah, and even if we look at how he was last year, Nathan, like you were saying, the Chicago Bears are a run-first team, and that was David Montgomery. And even with him being a run-first team, David Montgomery played in every single game last year and finished the season as RB24. So he is now moving on from the Bears, joining the Lions, who isn't necessarily a run-first team. So it's hard for me to imagine, like we're saying with them drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, to see him as a top 20 running back. I don't think he's going to have a ton of improvement. So I think that you get him, he'll be a reliable bench player and maybe a flex option from week to week, depending on matchups. But I'm not buying the hype around him. So, but that concludes our bust for running backs, but we do have some dishonorable mentions. So just like we did with honorable mentions, we do have dishonorable mentions, and these are just the players that ranked the highest for each of us, but didn't make our top 5 ADP list. So I will go ahead and kick that off. And for me, my dishonorable mention goes to Dalvin Cook. So there's a ton of question marks. Dalvin Cook is still an elite runner. So having him as my dishonorable mention, I'm a little bit worried about, but I think that's just because I am unsure of his future. So he may be one of those post June 1st cuts, and then now we see him trying to join a new team. So if he goes to the Dolphins, so be it. Now he has to learn a new system. So I don't think that he posts the same numbers. If he finds a way to stay with the Vikings, so be it, right? So he could post up similar numbers. For me, though, I worry about what that looks like. So if you're having your drafts upcoming and Dalvin Cook is still a Viking, but there's still these question marks around him, for me, I stay away. Unless he just slips way down to me, then it's like, oh, sure, I can go ahead and take that gamble with him. But early on, first 2-3 rounds, I do not feel comfortable taking him. Get somebody else at running back, double up on wide receiver, something. For me, I stay away from Dalvin Cook in this situation.
So do you think, when would you take him? If he fell to you, you're saying 3rd round probably?
No, 3rd round, I think if he fell to 4th or 5th. Nathan's
I think
saying
he's good.
6th.
I think he's not bad to take in 3rd if you are already wide receiver heavy and you're needing someone with decent upside, depending on where he goes. If you're already wide receiver heavy, I think he's not bad to take with where he would be with there in the 3rd round. It just depends then again. But 4th round, if he's there, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you're at the front end of that draft, like if you are picks 1 or 2, and then by the time it comes around to you, you'll have the first pick in the 3rd round, the last pick in the 4th round. So yeah, if he slips down to, I don't know. Yeah, I would say 4th round for me. I'd feel happy enough to get a Dalvin Cook
redraft.
I wouldn't even draft him. I wouldn't even draft him just because I don't know his future, and I just feel like there's better running backs. And
right.
even when he was healthy playing with Minnesota, they still didn't use him that much, So
yeah.
Well, they are a pretty pass happy team, but
and
he's a good
drafted a wide receiver. They just drafted a wide receiver, so they're investing in the pass. But moving on, my bust or my dishonorable mention, I should say, is Elijah Mitchell, and that is Elijah Mitchell when he's healthy and playing was really good, but healthy is a key word. He has not played a full season, and I feel like every time he comes back and they're like, oh, he's 100%, he's ready to go, he's hurt again. So to me, it's the injuries, the inconsistency. He's good when he's playing, but he's always hurt. And I believe he's still with San Fran, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, he's playing behind CMC.
Yeah, he's behind Christian McCaffrey, guys. He's behind Christian McCaffrey. So, you're not going to split. You're not going to split Elijah Mitchell with Christian McCaffrey because McCaffrey's a game changer. So that's why I have him as my dishonorable mention.
And I agree with you, Nathan. I think even if CMC goes down, Elijah Mitchell won't be able to produce the same numbers as Christian McCaffrey. In fact, if Christian
probably
McCaffrey
get hurt,
right? Well, if McCaffrey does have an injury and goes down, I think that the whole dynamics of the team will change right back. It will revert right to where it was before CMC showed up. It'll go right back to the passing game. These young quarterbacks relying on their arms and giving it to the other playmakers that are stretching the field. So I just don't see Elijah Mitchell, being who he, the 49ers need him to be if he needs to step up.
And just to clarify, I was saying if McCaffrey got hurt, Mitchell would probably get hurt too. So that's what I meant by saying he would get hurt.
Yeah. So, guys, for me, for my dishonorable mention at the running back position, I currently have Javonte Williams.
Damn, taking a shot at your own team, dude.
I know, guys, that breaks my heart. I'm a Denver fan. It really does. I'm a big Javonte Williams fan. So, talking about him right now is kind of, wish someone else would do it. But anyways, guys, when he was in the NFL in 2021, when he first came into the Broncos, he was arguably one of the best, young running backs in the league. And he was on a timeshare with Melvin Gordon. And yet he was still putting up RB2 numbers. It was ridiculous. Like, the dude was putting up some amazing numbers, especially mid to the second half of the year. And then when Melvin Gordon was released from the Broncos, it was like, oh, buddy, it's payday. It's time to roll. And so we were excited. But then, what was it, week 2, week 3? Dude tore everything he had in his poor little knee.
Yep. Russell Wilson cursed him.
Yeah. So, yeah. He ended up tearing his MCL, PCL, LCL. Dude, he tore it all. So,
shouldn't have hopped on the Broncos ride, dude. I'm telling you. That's what he gets for hopping on the Broncos ride.
Yeah.
Fucking Russell Wilson.
But, guys, it's hard for me to take a running back, in all honesty, even for the Broncos. It's hard for me to take someone who is coming off a pretty gruesome injury for any position. And I think like that, it kind of reminds me of the Cam Akers injury with his Achilles. I think that coming back, he's not going to be the same. We're just now starting to see a little bit of the post-injury of Cam Akers, and I think that could be the same maybe for Javonte Williams. I don't think he's going to bounce back this year. I think this year is going to be pretty down for him, which is why I have him as a bust. But I'm looking pretty good for 2024. Hopefully we'll see some post-injury Javonte Williams. But I think this year I can see the Broncos taking a step back with him. Even if he can be himself, I think they still kind of regress a little bit with him, and hopeful that they can get him back in 2024 and allow that injury and take their time on it, because he's still very young and he's very good.
That's what I hate to see is these running backs. I mean, I know that they're trying to earn their paycheck, but running backs trying to force the issue and hurry their way back into the league, and then they're just injury-ridden the rest of their career. So,
wasn't he at OTAs, Dalton?
He is back. He is back right now, but it still doesn't really change the way I think
he's
about
practicing
it
and running and repping with the first team. I think I saw right.
Yeah, he's got a bolted little knee brace.
I'm pulling for him.
No,
I mean, he's a great young running back. He had high potential. He really did. And it's can he bounce back after that injury? Kind of like Saquon did. His injury was a lot worse. But let's see how he bounced back. So I hope he bounced back well. I'm pulling for him.
But let's throw a little upside out there. Who's he competing with? Samaje Perine, and then they just got from the practice squad, Tyler Batty. Is that? I don't even know how you say that. Batty. They got him off the practice squad from the Baltimore Ravens. They drafted him last year, I think. But there's no one to really compete with. Samaje Perine is the best they got right now. That's not lingering an injury right now. So if Javonte Williams can show and prove himself right out the gates, he's back, baby. But like I said, I can see the Broncos, it's the uncertainty for me. Uncertain timetable. The uncertainty is the reason I have him as a bust, but I would love to see him as a huge sleeper and be able to be his old self. So
100%. Yeah, I hope the best for him, but yeah, I do think he is a good bust, dishonorable candidate here for us. So just because I think it's someone we're staying away because of that injury history. So, but anyways, guys, that concludes our episode. So thank y'all so much for giving us a listen, but we aren't done yet. So if you have stuck around to the end of our previous episodes, you know that leads us into our last segment, and that segment is called Bench Banter. So in this segment, we are going to do what Bench Banter is it's a trivia style game. Me and Dalton will work together to defeat the dealer. The dealer is Nathan. So we do get to use a hint. We do have to ask Nathan for a hint, but let's go ahead and get this started. Question number 1. There are only 3 questions.
Oh, you're not going to talk about how you lost last week?
We're not. We're going to go ahead and skip over that part. Yeah,
of course.
We're just jumping into question 1.
We're on our winning streak, and we lost next week.
It's a new week, new Bench Banter.
So. All right, question number 1. Who was the only player to ever return the opening kickoff for a touchdown in the Super Bowl?
Oh, I feel like I have a pretty good guess, but I want some hint. I want a hint.
Yeah. I can't tell you the team he played for. That'll give it away. It was an NFC team.
It's the Bears. I'm thinking it's Devin Hester.
That's what I was thinking, but did Devin Hester...
Did he go to the Super Bowl? Did he go to a Super Bowl?
That's what I'm thinking.
I think he did. Dude, I feel like it's Devin Hester. The dude is just a special teams technician.
Yeah.
And if someone could do it at a blazing speed, who's somebody else? Who's somebody else? Because we can say two.
This man should probably be in the NFL Hall of Fame, without a doubt. He should be. People have gone on an uproar about it, how he needs to be in the NFL based on what he's done.
It is. Randy Moss is already in. I was going to say Moss. He returned. I think he returned one in the Super Bowl, but he's already a Hall of Famer.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Oh man, I was leaning towards a Darren Sproles, but then I don't think that he's Hall of Fame like you're saying. So I don't know. I would have said
did Frank Gore?
No, I don't think he was a return specialist.
Yeah, but I'm thinking I think he's returned before. Yeah, I don't know. He wasn't a specialist.
Let's lock in Devin Hester right now.
Yeah, Devin.
The correct answer is Devin Hester.
I was about to say I couldn't think of anybody else, so it had to have been Devin Hester. So I didn't even want to throw out
that man needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
100%.
Yes, he does.
100%.
I didn't even know he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. Holy cow! I'm starting a petition right now.
Put that man in the Hall of Fame. Come on, what are you doing?
Give him his respect.
Put some respect on Devin Hester. Question number 2. Who's been the only team that's only had 3 head coaches since 1969?
So long tenured coaches. So we know there's the Patriots. Bill Belichick's been there forever, and I don't remember them having very many coaches before him.
1969.
Belichick.
The Browns. It's got to be the Browns.
Steve Sarkisian's been there forever.
Yeah, no, I feel like Patriots.
It's not Green Bay. It's not Green Bay. It's not the Broncos. It's not the Broncos. It's not the Cowboys.
They are in the AFC.
They're in the AFC. Man. Is it maybe the Steelers? I think it may be the...
Oh, that's a good one. Mike Tomlin. Yeah, he's been there forever. That's a good one.
I feel like it's an AFC... What is that, North? The Steelers or the Ravens? For me, I'm feeling Mike Tomlin. I feel like Mike Tomlin because I know he's been there for
17.
I was going to say 17, 18 years now. Yeah. So close to 20. So that takes us almost to 2000. I don't know who.
How many coaches have the Chiefs had?
Oh, but
they had a stint before Andy Reid.
I was about to say Andy Reid,
they weren't that good.
Yeah.
All right. So who I'm liking right now is
he has been there a while though.
I'm liking the Patriots, the Ravens, and who was the other one you just said?
Patriots, Ravens, and Steelers. I like Steelers as my 1. I think Patriots as my 2.
Yeah, I like Patriots. That was my gut. It was
Steelers.
Locking those 2 in.
Steelers.
Yeah. The correct answer is it is the Steelers.
Hey, Nathan, take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
Take Advil too. You're gonna need it.
We'll just skip question 3. I already lost. I'm just kidding.
Hey, give us. We'll see. We'll just try to throw it off their head. We won't give it much thought. Read off question 3. We'll answer it within
Nathan,
20 seconds.
All right, go ahead.
I bet you won't be able to.
We'll try to. First name that comes to our head is what we're locking in.
All right. Question number 3. What 3 quarterbacks have won 4 or more Super Bowls?
Tom Brady.
Joe Montana. Tom Brady. Oh, it has
technical difficulties there.
Would it just be?
You got 2 out of the 3 right now.
And I feel like it'd have to be a Steelers. Yeah? No. How many did Peyton win?
2?
Man,
Hold
I
on.
feel like he had a lot better career. 2.
Hold on. So let's think about the Super Bowl winning teams, right? So Cowboys.
I guess it could be the Cowboys or it could be the Steelers. Nathan, is it one of those two teams?
You want a hint?
Yeah.
What division?
I'm not giving you the division. I'm not going to give you the team. You mentioned the Cowboys. I'll tell you right now, it's not the Cowboys because Aikman won 3.
He would have been.
That's what I was going to go with. Too.
Staubach won 2.
That would have been
those make up the final. Yeah, Aikman only won 3. So
it'd have to be Steelers. It'd have to be
Steelers.
It'd have to be Big Ben.
I don't know if Big Ben won 4 though. Did he?
Pretty sure Big Ben only won 1.
That's what I say.
Maybe,
I mean,
maybe 2.
3?
Maybe 2. Maybe 2. I thought he only won 1. Maybe 2. I don't know. I'm actually going to Google that while you are thinking. I want to know how many he won. I thought it was 1 though.
Man, I said we were going to answer this in 30 seconds, but then Nathan said,
I told you wouldn't be able
people. To. It's like, motherfucker. Yeah, dude, I feel like it has to be Steelers. It's not Big Ben.
Who? What quarterback?
Oh my gosh, I can't even think of a Steelers quarterback right now.
He did win 2. Big Ben won 2.
So I know he played in 3.
He won in 06 and won in 09, and then he lost against the Packers.
Yeah.
So he played in 3, but won 2.
Well, Nathan, we already won. Oh, Dalton, did you want to guess?
Oh, dude.
Just because I know we've been on this for a while.
What quarterback? So I'm sitting here thinking teams. What if he didn't play for just a single team? Like, what if it's Kurt Warner?
I think he only won 1.
Did he?
Yeah, I don't know if he went.
Well,
I know he went.
I know he went. Well, that kind of changes everything now because never mind. Yeah, this is a lot harder than I thought it was because it's not just he may not have just been on one team.
Nathan, go ahead and drop the bomb. Who was the last one?
All right, y'all are on the right track. The answer is Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and Terry Bradshaw with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh my God, I was like, I can't even think of another Steelers quarterback right now.
Fucking Bradshaw. How do you not think of Bradshaw?
Oh my God, I'm a dip.
Give me some of that Terry Bradshaw money.
Yeah.
You had the team right. You had the team right. You did have the team right.
Man, we were on our A game today. Anyways, guys, thank y'all so much for the listen. That does conclude our episode. As always, you can find out all of our information on our website at boysonthebench.com. Through there, you can get connected through all of our social media sites and follow us there. That is TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We are also streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So always give us a listen. Show us your support. We finally hit double digits. And like I said, we are just learning the game. We hope to kind of take this off sometime soon, but we know it's going to take a little bit of a while. And we always love the day one listener. So continue to follow and support us. We love and appreciate all of y'all. We will see y'all next episode.
Later, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Pleasure riding the pine, boys.